Boise State for the win. They hand it off to Johnson. Boise State has won the tournament.
They take a downfield shot. And the catch is made. It's Ryan Williams. Still spinning free. Touchdown. The touchdown in the first possession. Back in the game. And he's loose again. Edwards off and running. Welcome back, Donovan Edwards.
He's going for the corner. He's got it.
This is the Gridiron Uncensored.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. This is the Gridiron Uncensored. I'm Brenden. Got Blake tonight. Trevor, he's having computer malfunction, so he's getting one new one, and he'll be back on at some point here shortly. But tonight, it's good to be back. I know it's been a minute, a little off season, break, I guess. Worked on the intro. Hope you guys like that. But again, not much going on right now. Really, it's just some coaching changes, stuff like that. But we're going to talk a little bit tonight just about the Ohio State National Championship since we missed that. But then we're going to talk a little bit about 2025 and what we're seeing, way too early, far out. Still a lot can change with the spring training, with the spring transfer portal period. So I know everybody's getting their hopes up. The title odds are even out already. But to me, all that shit can change quick. Blake, how you doing? How you feeling? What about old Ohio State in that national championship game? What'd you think about it?
It was a good game. I mean, they played a great game, had a great game plan. I was really hoping Notre Dame would have pulled that out, but
yeah, I feel like a lot of the world did.
Yeah, well, Jeremiah Smith was all over the field. Will Howard was on. Notre Dame they took too long to get going offensively, and it sputtered, and they couldn't do nothing.
Yeah, I mean, Howard really he came on and had a really nice game. I thought Notre Dame's defense throughout the season was pretty solid, and but yeah, like you said, I mean, Henderson and Judkins both had really good games. Howard had 57 on the ground. Then Jeremiah Smith through the air. I mean, he was pretty untouchable. 88 yards and a touchdown. Notre Dame's side, though, Riley Leonard, the offense really had a rough start, and it came in right before halftime. They kind of made a drive and got it close.
Well, their opening drive was like 95 minutes long, and then they scored. But after that, they was shooting themselves in the foot. They couldn't get. There was the penalties stopping first downs. Twice on like 4th and 1, and even fourth, it might have been shorter than 4th and 1, electing to punt at like the 40-yard line. I mean, in that situation, I'm like, you go for it. You line up and go for it in big games like that.
I feel like a lot of people felt that too, that it was just like, this is the moment you really need to, you got to punch it in.
And they got a huge offensive line, and they got arguably one of the top 5 running backs in the nation. Yeah. Feed them, let them do it.
You got to let them eat. But I mean, credit to Ohio State's defense. Yeah. They really, I mean, they played lights out. The big story of the game, again, third downs, we always lean back on that. And Notre Dame was only 5 of 12 on third downs. They did go 3 for 4 on fourth, but still, if you're doing that good on fourth downs, why don't you go for it at that crucial moment, late in the game, like you just talked about? But time possession battle, even Ohio State still won that 445 total yards offense. So great game from them. They won another national championship. Does make us sick, as Michigan fans, of course, but the blow is not as bad. We'll talk about that at another time. Now, I had to say that for my Ohio State friend. All right, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about 2025. Like I said, this game's done. It's been happening. People have talked it off. Whatever. Let's talk a little 2025 with Ohio State, just because they've had so much turnover, and it was to be expected. On the roster side, this year, or excuse me, 2024, they put a lot of their NIL into keeping players on the roster, really protecting what they have, making sure guys came back instead of going to the draft so that they could have this great opportunity to go win the national championship. And honestly, 2024, before the season started, we said it's a natty or bust for Ohio State. And it felt like that. It felt like there was a world of pressure on Ryan Day. And, regardless of, the mishaps, in the season, even losing to Michigan, losing to Oregon, they went back into the playoffs and they dominated it. So now 2025, you lose a lot of those guys that stayed. You also lost coordinators. What do you think about that, Blake? Is it going to be a big issue for them?
It's one of those way too early calls, but I still Ohio State, to me, they're always going to be able to win 8-9 games regardless. They're just going to have the talent for it, even when they have a down season. Because in reality, the Big Ten, even adding Oregon and Washington and USC, I really don't see much of a challenge out of USC and Washington this next season. So, I mean, it's still just going to be Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State. You could toss Illinois in there next year because I do think they're going to have a solid team. So I still don't really see anything that's going to like impede Ohio State's chances of having a good season. And like they promoted Brian Hartline from within, so he knows the team, knows the system, and it just depends on who else they get. And I'm sure it'll be a coveted position, so I'm sure whoever they bring in is going to be somebody that's going to come in and make an impact.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Ohio State historically always has just solid seasons. They don't lose more than 5 games. They don't lose more than 4 games, really, hardly ever. But for the only thing I say, just because you always talk floors, you talk ceilings. I don't think the floor is 8, but it could be if things go total shit. I mean, you got a new quarterback coming in, 2 new coordinators. I don't know with Hartline going to offensive coordinator if Ryan Day's going to be the main guy calling the offenses.
Most likely.
Other people have said, question that too. Like, he's never called plays before. He's a hell of a recruiter, no doubt. You got to keep this guy on the staff. Is it just one of those, hey, we're going to promote you in name only? Maybe you'll have some say in the offense, of course, but we're going to promote you in name. You're going to get a nice paycheck out of it, but I'm still going to have a lot of say in this offense as Ryan Day. And then you go out and get a new defensive coordinator and lean on that with all the talent that you have on your team. I talked to an Ohio State fan on Twitter about it. And I was like, if you want to a realistic thing, is like, yes, 8 could be a floor, but I don't see it. 12-0 could be your ceiling. I don't see that with a new quarterback. All these new parts. You're replacing defensive linemen. I know you're loaded with talent. I got it. So I said 10 wins is probably what I would expect, especially just we've talked about it before, Blake, too. Just in this new era with the bigger conferences and everything else. I think it's just going to be very hard to go undefeated in a regular season. Like, it's just going to be a really hard thing to do. Is it possible? Yes, but you got to have, in my opinion, a seasoned quarterback, somebody that's very ready to go, very good at their scheme, and then a continuity on the coaching staff. And so we'll see what happens with them. But they do start off much like Michigan coming out of their national champion run in the 2024 season, playing Texas. Ohio State plays Texas. To kick off the season. And then they go in Grambling State, Ohio Bobcats. So a couple easier ones, to get that turning. But then you go on at the road at Washington, which I think they can be better this year. They had moments this season of being pretty solid. But they also had plenty of issues. Then you go play Minnesota at a feisty Illinois team with a lot of returning players. And old Burt Bielema, that freaking guy, dude. I don't know. He's something else. Then you got Wisco, Penn State, Purdue, UCLA, Rutgers, and then at Michigan Stadium. And we know the monkey is on the back still. I think the national championship helped alleviate a lot of the pressure that Ryan Day was feeling elsewhere. So maybe, that'll change things for him. But we'll see that game being, again, at Michigan at the end of the year. So I said 10 wins, 10-2. I'm not saying they're going to lose, go to 8 games, win 8 games, but I think you could say it's a possibility. Would I bet on that? No. I'm
I
not
would
going to
put
bet
them in
on
that range as well. 9-3, 10-2.
Yeah, I'm
Something
going to pull
like
up
that.
their over-under real quick.
I think their over-under is 10.
Is it?
10 or 10.5.
I thought I pulled it up earlier, but I forgot. I think you're right, 10.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean
I would take the under going by that number.
And under by I don't think they'll go over. I don't see it. I don't see 11. That's a lot to me, especially with all the new changes. But I do think again they have continuity at least at head coach, and you trust Ryan Day. He's elevated himself obviously through this playoff.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really crucial point for them, even though they're replacing coordinators. After that, it's just making sure the team gels, and you need a fast start playing Texas. But after that, you have a little bit of time to get situated, like I said, playing Grambling in Ohio. Anything else on Ohio State, Blake, that you feel that? Yeah, I mean, they're always loaded. They're loaded with talent. Yeah. They recruit so great. They did great, good movements in the portal, trying to beef up the offensive line. We'll see. I would temper some expectations, but I'm just trying to be realistic about shit. I get, like, even I had Michigan fans last year saying, "Oh, 12-0 is it." No doubt. Like, could it? Yes. I mean, it could, but I doubt it, And it's the same thing here. I don't see a 12-0 season, but it could happen. Saying better be a beast. And is there any other quarterback competition? I don't think so. I think he's going to be the guy. But either way, let's move on, Blake. We're talking, we said most surprising teams from 2024 was, just something we wanted to bring up just because we didn't really have a chance to talk about the end of the season. Who did you feel from the 2024 year, who was the most surprising to you, good or bad?
Good, I would say. I've got two. I would go either Illinois or Arizona State.
Mm-hmm.
Bad, Florida State. I mean, you have to go there. I mean, there's not another, and it's not just to throw hate. It's not. You went from, potentially playing for a national championship to one of the worst college football seasons I've seen in my entire life. And I mean, that's the only direction you can go with that.
Yeah, I mean that was just Kansas. I'd have put them in earlier, but they at least had some sort of turnaround towards the end, but still very disappointing. I agree. Florida State, big letdown on the the downside of it. Most surprising, Arizona State for sure. We all thought. I mean, I think their over under was 4.5 or 5, and they went to the playoffs, and they honestly probably should have beaten Texas.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I know there's a lot of
the Kansas City refs out there. No denying.
Like that was the game, and I'm really excited about them moving into 2025, and we'll talk a little bit about that shortly. But Arizona State, BYU really had a nice turnaround. Indiana had a hell of a year with all the transfers that they brought in, new coaching staff. And that brings up a debate too, I guess we can talk about real quick, is do you see, a team that runs a transfer portal, heavy, being a legit contender, or could they win a national title? Or do you think it still needs to be kind of what we've seen over the last couple of years of strong foundation, plug and play some of the guys from the portal, that just fill holes?
Well, I mean, Ohio State just won it with the transfer portal, really. I mean,
yeah, I mean, they brought in 7 or 8, so I mean, it's not a huge class, but they were huge pieces.
Right. And it's kind of a mixture. I mean, I don't think you'll ever see a team like Colorado had where 80% plus of the team was from the portal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you'll ever see a team like that win a national championship.
Yeah.
You do have to have like that. There has to be chemistry on a team.
Yeah.
There's not many teams I can think of in recent history that did not have chemistry that won a national championship.
Yeah. You really got to bond, and coaching staff and culture is so huge in that too.
Yeah.
And so that's why I thought Signetti did a great job with, they lean super heavy on the portal because it's a new year, new coach. But I mean, they brought in so much from outside, but still they had a culture of, hey, don't talk about it. Let's be about it on the field and show what you can. And then
Well, a lot of them came with him.
Yeah.
So like
So there's continuity there. That's true.
Right. If I don't think it will be. I don't see Indiana winning 10 games this season.
Yeah.
I'll put it to you like that. I think that's what carried them is just the bond, the chemistry, the players. They knew each other. It's hard to get that in one season.
It is.
Out of a transfer class like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is possible. I think at some point we'll probably see maybe a team make the playoff. I don't think they'll make a natty run necessarily, but I think it's possible for them to make the playoff in a heavy, like a Colorado style one. Because what you said about Indiana did change my mind a little bit about them. There was a lot of continuity from them coming in with Signetti from JMU, but I think the foundation's laid for, hey, you retain people, you recruit well, try to keep them as best as you can. And if you can't, you got a couple holes, try to get the best one that you can out of the portal, and and then just have good chemistry, good team cohesion and culture. You can't go yapping and talking, and like we've seen with Colorado, where it gets so just out there. But then what happened when they shut the hell up? They started winning games. So maybe it is possible. All right, let's move on. We had a couple. I guess we'll do the mailbag segment. That's something we'll try to do a little bit more. Ask people around the socials, what do they think, or what do they want to hear about? And the initial ones was title contenders. Who are your immediate title contenders for 2025? Way too early, but you still have some idea. How these teams shake out. Blake, what were your feelings on the way too early contenders?
So I'm just gonna kind of reformat the question.
Sure.
With my answer here. So there are two teams that stand out to me for next season, being Notre Dame and Texas, based off of returning players, last year's performance. Mm-hmm. I think both of those two teams are, just my opinion, they're a lock to get in the playoffs. Texas, they're at the top for me to win the SEC. I think you're going to see a much better offense with Arch Manning. But then on the flip side, I've got a couple of teams that they're almost like lurking in the shadows. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a what if scenario with these, but like Clemson, they've got they got a lot of returning talent on that team. Klubnik coming back, they're pretty much their entire offensive line is coming back. They got two running backs that are highly touted coming in Gideon Davidson and Marquise Henderson. And then a lot of people, they're putting a lot of stock in TJ Parker and Peter Woods on the defensive line. I've seen those names a lot on Twitter.
Yeah.
And this one, it's shocking to say because their schedule still gives me a little bit of reservation. But Florida, I think Florida's got a hell of a team coming back. 7 offensive starters, 8 defensive starters, and DJ Lagway running the offense. 6-1 as a starter last season. I mean, it was a completely different team with him on the field. It was never really in question. And then these last two teams, ours, Michigan and Alabama. Michigan, I think they was one piece from success, and that's quarterback.
Yeah.
And it's hinging on, is Bryce Underwood going to live up to the hype? Mm-hmm. If he can complete a pass, which is something Orji couldn't do.
Don't remind me. Don't fucking remind me.
Alabama and Michigan are this. It's the exact same. Everything I'm saying applies to both of these teams. I think the defense is there on both of these teams. I think playmakers are there on both of these teams. The backfield is solid on both of these teams. The offensive line is solid on both of these teams. All the question marks are at quarterback.
Yeah.
Alabama and Michigan both were held back all season from quarterback play. And Alabama, finally, with Milroe being the leech of death gone, we have an opportunity to stretch the field and use playmakers and hit wide receivers that are wide open. And
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. And if we have a quarterback with an IQ of 12, and I mean, that's not asking a lot, just throw a ball here and can do it, put the square in the square hole. If we can do that, I like 10, 11 wins. Same with Michigan.
Yeah.
I think Michigan, it's not out of the question for them to win the Big Ten if they have good quarterback play. Same with Alabama and the SEC. I think the pieces are there.
Yeah.
We just need quarterback play out of each team. So that's really, if I had to narrow it down, though, I would say Notre Dame, Texas, Clemson are my favorites for winning the national championship next year.
Yeah.
Outside looking in, you could throw Penn State in there. They got some guys returning. But James Franklin, I'm always going to have reservations with him.
Yeah.
Oregon, they're losing a lot, but Dan Lanning's pretty good at plugging and playing and rinsing and repeating. I don't think they'll be as strong as last year, but they're definitely, a title contender.
Yeah.
A lot of teams lost a lot of talent this offseason, so it's really hard to narrow it down to a couple teams, but that's my top three: Notre Dame, Texas, Clemson.
Especially quarterback wise, I feel like a lot of lost talent there and shuffling. There'll be a lot of new faces. The sports book show Ohio State, Texas, and Oregon as your top three. I think Ohio State can compete, but I wouldn't say they're a favorite right now to me. I'd probably say Texas. After that, I feel jumbled. Penn State, I know Alara's coming back, but again, the James Franklin, I know they want a playoff game, whatever. I still just don't trust. I don't trust it. I don't know. Maybe it's my bias.
No, I'm right there with you. That he hasn't proven it.
I don't like it. And then and they've had some changes, right? But then Notre Dame, you lose quarterback, but you have a couple of highly rated guys on the team that were as recruits. But then outside of that, Marcus Freeman showed pretty solid improvement this year, and obviously getting them to the natty. So I think they got to be up there. But I keep an eye out for Clemson with Klubnik coming back, and because I think he had a hell of a year this season.
He did.
Proved a lot of people wrong. And so Clemson, Texas, probably Georgia, depending at how quarterback play goes. But I don't know. It's kind of a tough question. But who do you guys think? Let us know in the comments. Who are you guys?
One more
feeling?
real quick to mention Tennessee.
Yeah.
They have an extremely soft schedule this year.
Dude, I haven't looked.
Yeah, it's really in their favor this season. They've got, I would say, 2 grade A games that if they can get through them, but if they lose 2 of them, are they still in the playoffs? It just depends on how the rest of the SEC shakes out.
And how Nico does too.
Yeah, I was gonna put them as one of my overhyped teams because he wasn't really what I was expecting out of him last season. And I didn't see a lot out of them offensively that made me go, wow, they're going to do something. But when I seen their schedule, I'm like, well, with that's very favorable for them. So they could probably make a playoff run again, but I wouldn't say national champions yet.
I could see LSU making some movement with Nussmeier staying around.
Not with Brian Kelly staying around.
But yeah, BK, you have it Drew way. No, I just he left Notre Dame and they improved, so it's crazy. Ole Miss, they're losing Jackson Dart. South Carolina maybe they could be a dark horse type.
They got Sellers coming back. I just don't know if they have enough firepower outside of him. That was I thought about throwing them in there, but I don't see a lot of they haven't proven it with these new guys coming in yet.
Yeah.
Steller's coming back's a huge deal, and they've got a solid defense, but I need to see more out of their offense before I could say, yeah, South Carolina is going to be a contender here.
Yeah, I feel like this can be another wide open season, man. I just
For
looking
sure.
at just off the top of my head, all the quarterback changes, staff changes. I mean, Oregon's going to be playing, one of their guys on the roster. Texas, it's not like these massive name transfer guys are going to be it. Bama's got a new guy, Michigan's got a new guy, Ole Miss,
Georgia.
So I always lean towards who's got a veteran quarterback: Clemson, LSU, Penn State. And really outside, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of others, but just looking at this list. So yeah, again, let us know what you guys think. Who are your initial title contenders? Can Ohio State be that? I mean, they're leading the sports book from FanDuel, but do they have enough? Will there be enough continuity in this new changeup with the quarterback to be the team to try and repeat it? Last question that we had from the mailbag segment was teams that are overrated. They said 5 teams overrated. There's going to be a lot of overrated teams. It happens every single year. But Blake, who's your initial thoughts on the most overrated and overhyped teams going into 2025?
I would say USC, as long as Lincoln Riley is a head coach, wherever he is retaining a job, they will be overhyped. Indiana, North Carolina, people, just the big bill coming to town are all, we're going to win 9-10 games now. I wouldn't go that far yet.
Yeah.
So USC, Indiana, North Carolina, I threw Miami on there. Just, Carson Beck, he's a big name, bad player. As far as a 5th team, I mean, it's really open-ended. I listed Colorado. Just, they're going to lose a lot of guys to the NFL. Hell, they may lose their coach. Who knows? So, yeah, I'd say USC, Indiana, North Carolina, Miami, and Colorado.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say Miami again. I just don't think Cristobal's, this great, they had every opportunity this year with so many people holding in front of them. They couldn't get over that hump.
Yeah.
With Cam freaking Ward at quarterback.
That's what I was about to say. All these people building up Carson Beck. I'm like, you just had Cam Ward, who I would say I'd take him all day and a half over Carson Beck.
And he's going to a less talented roster.
Yeah.
I mean, Georgia's at what, top 2, top 3 talented between Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State are the top 3 talented. Yeah. And then now you're going, Miami's not hurting. I'm not saying that, but it's definitely a less talented team. So yeah, I'd say I'd throw Miami in there. I'd throw Penn State in there just because of,
you don't like them.
I don't have the feeling. I know they went out and they snatched away, Knowles from Ohio State, which I think is a bold move from them. So I mean, they can certainly make a run, and I think they should be, front runners for the Big Ten and all this stuff. They should be that. I just don't see it. But maybe I'll be wrong. I've been wrong before. Not much. All right. Okay. Maybe a lot, but either way, trying to think of other team that's just completely overhyped right now. Maybe, I don't know. I'll probably go.
I can tell you one that I think is
Notre Dame. I know Notre Dame's got good players, but I want to see how they do with the new quarterback.
Yeah,
because that's tough bringing, starting off from scratch.
The thing is I like Riley Leonard.
Yeah,
but as a passer,
sure,
he wasn't great. He was, and even as a runner, he wasn't phenomenal. He was good at extending plays and extending drives when he needed to. But if you ask him to stand in the pocket, and it's kind of like Jalen Milroe. I mean, he's a more refined Jalen Milroe as a passer.
Yeah.
I think any quarterback really, again, I'm not putting him down. I'm just saying any quarterback that has a passing ability is going to really open up Notre Dame's offense because of the way they run the football.
And they do run it very well. They've got strong line.
Riley Leonard was one of those quarterbacks that if the defense forced him to throw the football, they would sputter. And that's just one of those things. But if they had a quarterback that can complete some passes, that's really going to open up the running game. That's really going to open up play action. And, I mean, it could turn Notre Dame deadly. But, I mean, I see your point, too. Texas A&M is another team you could list as overhyped.
Yeah.
I've seen people saying they could win the SEC this year. Until they prove it, I'll never fall for that. And then one I think people are underselling is Louisville. I think Louisville's got a really good team, and I think they could win 9 or 10 games this year too.
Yeah, and I mean,
throwing that out there,
they've got potential to do it. Texas A&M's one. I do like what the staff has changed. Like I feel like the culture has changed a bit there, but it's hard to say that they're gonna go out again, and people are like you said, they hype them up, and then I need to see.
In the words of Trevor, look, they've done it. It was like, it's Marcel Reed's the guy. He comes in, and then Wagman, however you say it. Oh, he's the dude. He's gonna get it for us. And then Marcel comes back in, and he has one good game against LSU, who we later find out everybody can run the ball in LSU.
Yeah. After
that, what'd they do? Nothing. He was pretty much garbage the rest of the season. So I like the coach, and I do like what they're doing there, and I do think they will eventually be successful, but I do not see them, even with all these changes, being at the head of the SEC. I don't see that. I don't get that feeling like you do about Penn State. I just don't feel it. You can feel when something's building somewhere. Like when Kirby Smart went to Georgia, you could tell something is coming from that. With Steve Sarkisian at Texas, you can tell something is brewing. And I just don't feel that out of Texas A&M. It just doesn't strike me as something that's getting ready to explode.
Yeah, so maybe that's more par for the course than, for them. But I need to see more from Marcel Reed. But let us know, guys, who you think for who is already way overhyped going into 2025. Again, it's so early. It's hard to really know until all the position battles shake out and the finalized coaching staff. Like Bama just got a new offensive coordinator, Grubb coming in. Things have changed there. Ohio State's still looking for the defensive coordinator, though there's rumors of Matt Patricia coming in from the NFL. I know he's been a head coach at times, solid defensive coordinator at times. So we'll see what happens with that. It's hard to tell. So again, we will get more refined and more honed in on who we project as we move through the offseason when we do our team previews. But for now, that's what we got. So we appreciate you guys asking us questions. And I know we answered kind of the one about Penn State. Jared, you asked, will they make the national title? Or are they title contenders? They should be. I think they'll probably make the playoff. They should be right on that edge of, a team getting in. I think they'll drop one that they shouldn't, and then who knows what will happen in the playoffs. But I just don't trust James Franklin. Yeah. Blake, anything else for tonight? I think that's it. Again, we appreciate you guys, asking mailbag questions. We'll try to do that weekly if you guys have stuff to talk about. For Blake, anything?
I'm good.
All right. Well, we appreciate you guys, of course, and good to be back. We'll have more episodes coming forward, and look forward to maybe some more content, shorter clips and stuff for socials. Give you a snippet of what the the podcast was about. So we appreciate you guys. We'll holler at you. We hope you guys have a great night. Take care.